Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Resilient Riches. Today, we are going to make sure everybody that listens to this episode is married by the end of this episode. We have the famous Netflix extraordinaire, popular superstar, Aleeza Ben Shalom, calling in from Pardes Chana in Israel right now. She's changing the entire world and changing. And the beauty is that a lot of the people that we hear from that love the show, the Jewish Matchmaker or Jewish Matchmaking, weren't even Jewish. So we got a lot of people reaching out to say, you have to get her. And they're like Indian or from Pakistan or they're Christian. It's just amazing. So you've really made this incredible impact. Aleeza, we're really excited for this conversation. Thank you so much for coming on. First, we hope your family's safe during this very difficult time. I know you are in the north, but and are safe right now, and we pray for you. And we're thinking of our family in Israel every single day. So, Aleeza Ben Shalom, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm honored. I'm so excited. You have so many listeners from all over. We just did some stats and we're like, oh my gosh, somebody signed up from South America, South Africa, Australia, Europe. We have people from all over. So it's really incredible.
We are the 31st largest podcast in the Philippines and 121st largest podcast in South Africa. So I don't know what that means, but I think it's a good statistic.
How'd you pull that off?
I have no idea.
I think it was by default. I think that's why. Like my son is a big wrestler. My oldest son is a big wrestler. You know, he got third place, but there was only 3 wrestlers. How'd you tie for third?
All good questions. So, Aleeza, everybody knows your background, but if you can give us a 30-second background, and then I have a bunch of questions for you, and we can get right into it.
And some single people we want you to meet.
Okay, great. So I grew up in the Philadelphia area. I lived there my whole entire life. 3.5 years ago, my husband and I decided the time has come. We're moving to Israel. We picked up our family with our 5 kids, our pandemic puppy, and we brought ourselves to Israel. And I have a business doing matchmaking and dating and relationship coaching and anything to help get somebody from me to we, to bring couples together. And I said, okay, I'm going to make a go of my business and you can kind of like take a sabbatical year and we'll figure it out. And since then, I got the position to do Jewish matchmaking on Netflix. We started filming, the show came out, and now I'm just living my dream, helping people to find their person and figure out how to make it happily-ish ever after.
Is your husband still on sabbatical?
So in year 1 is sabbatical. Year 2 was like, maybe you're like semi-retired. Year 3, we're like, I think you're retired. So I think he's accidentally retired at this point.
There's an excellent expression that I've heard. You can marry more in a minute than you can make in a lifetime.
Loves that expression.
You can marry more in a minute. So my husband's grandmother said something like, you can marry a nice Jewish girl or you can marry a nice rich Jewish girl.
I told my younger son the same thing.
It's just a couple commas and zeros on the textbook.
Just as easy.
Zeros really mean so much when the number before it isn't a zero, eh?
It really is significant. It's not zero at that point. It really changes everything. How did you get into this position? Like, how did you find, like, this is my calling? Were you the most successful shotgun in Philadelphia? Then all of a sudden Netflix was like, hey, we need you. Like,
how did Netflix find you? How did Netflix find you also?
Okay. So I accidentally fell into matchmaking. I got married, I had kids, and I was home, and I wanted to just kind of do something to keep a little bit busy, but not like a job. And my girlfriend's like, oh, I'm like a matchmaker online. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. She's like, here, sign up. You can try it too. And I signed up to do matchmaking, and I started to do matchmaking and coaching and training people. And it like slowly just developed into this love, passion. And a lot of people say that it's a calling. If you talk about matchmaking, you are drawn to this. You just know it's a calling. And I started to take it really seriously. I turned it from a hobby into a business. And at some point I was like, I'm going to change the world. I want to change the world. I believe that families are the foundation of a community, which is the foundation of the world. And if it starts back with a family, then I have to bring couples together to make that happen. So I started taking it very seriously, and I was like, I'm going to do something big, like really big. And I was at that point seeking opportunities to do a show or a program that would be impactful. And Jewish matchmaking was one of a couple of show opportunities that came up. And it seemed to be the most real, impactful, something with like a good heart and soul. My girlfriend actually applied for it because they hunted her down and found her. And she's like, nah, I don't want to do this. Call Aleeza. You'll like her. She'll be good at this. So a matchmaker made the match for the show. And that's how casting found me.
Wow.
My wife says that if you do a certain amount of successful shidduchim, your path to Gan Eden is assured.
So people say you make 3 matches and you go to heaven, but there's no source for it. So when you find a source, you let me know.
Is it really important to have a source?
We all know that you make a match and you bring, 2 people from 2 different worlds together that build a family. It's nothing short of a miracle. So I am sure that there is a large reward.
So let's get right into just a few questions when people are looking to get married. What are the tips and on the financial, let's talk about the financial side. So what are tips that you give people before they are looking for a match and before they're looking to get married? How do you talk to them and coach them through financials?
So financials are a really big thing. And whether you have them or you don't have them so much, it's a really big thing. Mostly what I do is talk about the fact that if we have an understanding of who you are and where you're at, not that it doesn't matter and it doesn't have to be aligned, but there's ways of working around things. So sometimes we will have very wealthy clients that are very concerned that they're going to date somebody, not just that somebody would take their money. That's not even the biggest concern. The biggest concern is that they don't know how to live at that lifestyle. They don't know what those things mean. And we have really serious conversations. We also have serious conversations around second-time marriages, with or without kids, the financial plan, like, do you have a trust? Do you have things, filtering down the line? Does this new person have access to things? Is there a prenup that's in place? I'm very into having a serious financial conversation. What does it mean to you? What type of lifestyle do you want to live? What are your expectations? Some people with money, they don't like to spend it. They just like to save it. And other people with money, they like to enjoy a super luxurious lifestyle. And we have to combine not just money, but how people think and feel about money. And that's actually something really nuanced.
Yeah. There's money personalities and having conversations with money. We were having a meeting today with somebody and he was saying how him and his wife are both very, very frugal, but his wife can't handle the pressure when it comes to finances. So she cannot be part of it. What we try to do is we try to set up, and we encourage people to set up like a date night, like once a month, once every 2 months, just to only talk about money. It's not just talking about the numbers. It's just talking about like money in general as a concept. And we try to give people some talking points that they can talk about. Like, how did you view money as a kid? Like, did you think that a lot of money when did you start thinking that $100 was a lot of money? Like, these little questions can engage the conversation. And once you engage the conversation, then you can talk about the numbers because there's less pressure and there's less stigma. When you're talking to these types of people and you're going through these financial plans, do you find it that you also have to talk to both sides to talk about the other person's finances? Because I'm sure many times you're setting people up, they go, well, do they have any money? Or what's their credit score? Which is like the secret way of saying, do they have any money?
Yeah. Financials are really complicated and a lot of people don't want to disclose information, and knowing how much they have is important, but also knowing about the other side of it, which is the debt side. Like, wow, you could have a lot of money, but if you also have a lot of debt, one cancels the other out. So there's definitely these concerns that come up, and we try to gracefully navigate it. Like, if money is a thing to you, it's really important to you, you need it, and you need to make sure that this is something that is in alignment with you, where somebody's at your level or more than at your level, then we have pretty intense conversations. I think it's also a big thing for women when they have a significant amount of money and they're dating men who are never at that level. Do they understand me? And then can they relate to me? Will that emasculate him? And how does that, what bearing does that have on the relationship? It's really stressful sometimes on a relationship.
But don't you think it's like super important though to have these kind of open conversations, especially, I went through my own financial difficulties, and part of the problem was that I didn't feel like I could share it with my wife. And that made a huge pressure on me because I didn't have that team. So, starting off correctly, that you're having these open conversations, to me is critical.
I think that it's key, and I think that it's really smart to do that, because then you're not at ground zero and you're not, guessing at what something is. You're constantly a step ahead, right? Like we know where we're at today, we know where we're heading, and we're very clear about whether we have similar or different values. Like I grew up a saver. That was my thing, right? You earn money, you save it. You earn money, you save it. And I went to my dad once and I said, like, here's my babysitting money. Here's $27. And he smiled at me and he goes, come back when you have 500, right? Several months later, because I babysat a lot, I come back with a wad of cash. And he's like, what'd you do? Rob the store? I was like, no, you told me come back when I have $500. He said, what is that? I said, that's $500. Like ones, fives, tens, 20. He goes, okay. I said, put it in the bank. He goes, good, do it again. Right. And that was my financial mindset. And when I got married, I felt like we were bleeding cash. I was like, oh my gosh, the apartment and the food and I'm like, no, we have to save money. And I had to totally reset my mindset that you actually have to spend money to live your life and you can't just save money.
100%. My wife came in with money just sitting in Chase bank account. And I said, what are you talking about? You have to move it to at least a high yield savings. Like do something with it. You can't sit nothing. And then she'll call me during the day. Hey, the market went down right now. And my dollars, my money that I put into the market's down. Like, can you do something about it? Like, are you going to fix that? I go, no, life is ups and downs. Just be patient. It's going to get there eventually. Don't overthink it.
No, but I actually think that, Eve, starting off financially open, it just gives you the foundation for everything, for your relationship to be open. Like that just will set the tone for your whole relationship going forward.
Yes, I agree. And if there's financial incompatibility, we either have to solve it so we can move ahead or solve it so that we can move away and say, no, thank you. This isn't for me.
Aleeza, what's your number of how many people have you gotten married?
I've helped over 200 people to get to the chuppah.
Did they finish at the chuppah?
Well, they got
to there.
They got married.
She can't do more than that. She can't
mean that they got married.
She can't be the closer over there. That's got to happen up there.
You can bring the horse to the water, but you can't.
No, I'm a good closer. I love coaching and closing. That's like, and I'm okay with closing and chuppah and getting married. I'm also okay with closing and not getting married. Like, oh, okay, you didn't get married. Good. Not for you. That's a win.
Yeah. No good relationship ends in a divorce.
Right.
So it's good to mention that's a Louis C.K. line. I don't know how controversial we want to be, but it's a Louis C.K.
line. I have a daughter. She was married for about a year or so in college when she was still in law school, got divorced after a year. I mean, I would have been super happy if that never would have happened.
Right.
Financially, he would have been really happy.
Not even financially. I mean, financially, of course, but just the mental anguish that it caused her, the trauma that she had. Just going through it all it's just not worth it. I mean, it would have been better. Before, 2 minutes before the wedding, you can call it off.
Right.
It's way easier. So while you're talking to people and while you're coaching and you're getting people to this point of being open to other relationships, there's a big problem right now with older, let's say in my community, it's a lot of older women who are single that want to get married and they're really struggling. What are you talking to them to get to a point to be open again when they've gone through so many dates? It's been so hard for them for so long. And then all of a sudden you're saying, hey, it's time for you to get back out there. And they're like, I've seen every guy. I know every guy. And they just don't want to do it.
Yeah. So first of all, if you're at that place, that's where you need a dating detox. You need a break. You need to step away, get a little bit of distance from dating and relationships and just go on vacation. Like, thank you. Here's your prescription. Go take a week vacation, chill out, come back, and then just reassess. What do you really want? Where have you looked already? And how can we do something different? You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. We need to have you actually shift and do something totally different so that we can get different results. So we need to look in different communities. We need to maybe go out of town and visit friends. We need to expand our network and talk to new people. If you're on one app, you need to be on another app. If you don't go to in-person events, maybe you should start. Like we literally have to just try to do things in a different way.
My son, though, he lives in Israel. He's single. He's in his 30s. He kept his U.S. job, so he's doing well. He got his hair redone, whatever. I think he's a handsome guy. Looks like my father. But he tells me that he'll go on a date. He'll go on the apps, whatever it is. He'll go out with a girl maybe one or two times. They'll think that they're having a good time and developing their relationship. And then the next thing he knows, he's being ghosted. He says the Israeli girls are very tough.
That's no surprise. Give him my number. Tell him we'll talk.
All right. Yeah.
I want to. You think he will? Yeah.
No, he won't
talk.
call.
No, he won't talk.
Only you want him to. I always say you can't want it more than he wants it for himself.
That's true. But I don't know. Maybe he'll listen. I don't know.
There's a lot of employment that we can offer, the Klymans can offer to you for work, but we don't know if they'll get there. Horse to water can't force them to drink concept. So what do you talk about these singles? So yes, they get burnt out, they go on vacation. And I really like that. That's a real action step. And then and then what they're doing, it's the same thing in finance. Like it's insanity is the same thing, doing it over and over again, but expecting a different result. Like if the dating apps don't work for you and you go out with these people and it's not working, stop with the dating apps. Maybe go to more singles events, maybe do speed dating, maybe do something different. Go to where you are not, and then all of a sudden you'll meet new people, which is really a big deal. Second question for you is, or not second, my fifth already. What do you do about women who are religious? Let's say they've been religious and now they basically dated a lot of the religious people and now they want to go into the non-religious world. Like, what advice are you giving them? Because it's a completely different community.
Yeah, totally a different community. The first thing I would tell them is to get an education on it. So talk to somebody, either a dating coach or a relationship coach, somebody who has an awareness of both worlds. Like I grew up secular and then I became observant in my mid-20s. I'm now in my late 40s. So half my life I've been secular. The other half I've been religious. And I have an awareness of that and kind of teach them the game, because it's a very different game when you're playing in the secular world. And if you don't understand it, you just won't know what to do. You'll be doing it wrong and you're not going to get better results. And also to just kind of slowly kind of wean off of where you're at and ease down into wherever you want to be. Because when you just go from one extreme to the other, people always say, they're like, no, but it's fine. I don't mind. I'm like, you don't mind, but you don't make sense. Like you don't realize that you still have a mindset from your previous life that you're trying to bring to your new world, even though you think you're not, but you don't fit in. So it's not going to be any better of a match. You have to slowly ease into.
Can you give an example of what you mean by that?
So sometimes I have clients that are very religious and then they decide like, that's it. I don't want to be religious. I'm just going to date secular. And they come to the secular world. They start dating secular, but they don't know in terms of physical intimacy, right? So in religious world, they're not touching at all until they get married. And in the secular world, they have no idea what the rules are. Or in terms of financial, definitely, like maybe there's a certain expectation that somebody's going to pay and somebody wants to split and they don't know what to do or how to handle it. That's a financial example. The other thing is that they come with kind of mixed up values. So they're going to tell you like, no, I'm not doing those religious things, but of course I'm going to keep certain holidays and I'm going to observe in a certain way. I do this, but I don't do this. And the secular person's like, what are you?
Makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense. You're either secular or you're religious. Like pick one. And they're like, no, like this is what I do, but this is what, and they don't realize that actually often they are very religious minded and they have a religious leaning to them. And a completely secular person that never grew up with that type of religion in their life is like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like they're literally not talking the same language because they've never experienced that. So it doesn't even make sense to them. So I think the religious person needs to like watch a few movies, talk to some secular people, get a perspective, keep their mouth closed more than open, and look around and learn the culture and the society and not assume like what they know has nothing to do with the new lifestyle that they're choosing to lead. It's very, very different.
What about Sephardim marrying Ashkenazim?
Right? Like, oh, yeah. I don't have an issue with it as long as you know what you're getting yourself into.
I did that. And two of my sons did that.
So I have no issue with it. If you know the customs and you're okay with it and you're like, your family is one way, but your new family that you're going to build is another way, it's okay as long as everybody buys in and that you lean towards what is the custom of our household. Like I grew up one way, you grew up the other, but what will our home look like? If it's going to be a whole mixed bag and nobody knows anything, it's not great. It's really nice when you're clear about what your traditions are, what your customs are, and that you're not a mixed up like, oh, we do whatever. It doesn't really matter because it's not very grounding. It doesn't feel very good.
You take the best of both worlds, though. How about that?
You could, again, as long as you're clear and you know exactly what you want, I think that that's very good.
It's a very interesting point what you said before about understanding the different cultures. I am religious, but I'm not the most religious. I do this, but I don't do that, but I do here and I don't do there. So I have like all these little things, but it actually worked out very well with my wife because she grew up Sephardic, Persian, and their culture is very comfortable on like people will either drive to shul one day or to synagogue and on Sabbath, but they'll keep full kosher. So they'll be more kosher than me, but they'll keep like they pick and choose, but they do it as a community. So that's why the community all tries to marry each other. In my world, it's a little bit different because we're Orthodox. We practice Orthodox. If you eat dairy out, it's not that I'm eating dairy out. I just go, I'm eating not kosher. Their world's like, oh, you're eating dairy out. Like it's a completely different.
It's a completely different mindset. And there's other customs like, oh, I keep kosher at home, but I don't keep kosher out. But if I bring home the non-kosher food, I'll eat it on paper plates because I want my dishes to be kosher. And you're like, no, body. It's the body that needs to be kosher. The dishes are like just the middleman there.
The internal. It's all about like hosting and having people feel comfortable. In the Persian culture, it's like having people feel comfortable that they can eat at your home. If they can't come to your house and eat at your home, you're like outcasted the next day. When you're going through, so you're going through relationships, you're talking to people. Are you also dealing with people who are struggling in relationship, post-relationship, like dealing with divorce, dealing with this type of stuff? Or unfortunately in Israel right now, it's a lot of widows.
So we deal specifically with singles. Sometimes people will come to us and say like, I'm in the process of divorce and I want to start, exploring and dating. And I said, we only deal with you if you're single. So you have to get divorced officially, not be with somebody, and then come to us. You can't come to us and still be married. Like if you're mentally divorced, but not physically with the paper stamp, it's no good. It doesn't count. And we only work with people who are officially divorced. If somebody's widowed, yes, we of course would work with them. And there's different organizations. There's actually some organizations in Israel that we are looking to collaborate with to support the widows and to try to help people rebuild, a family and find a new partner.
Yeah, it's a very hard time right now in Israel for these types of people, and especially like people who are single that were just like, let's say at the Nova Festival, these were beautiful people, and then they lose a limb or they're disabled. How are you addressing that big concern right now?
So in Israel, there's a high sensitivity and awareness of this because we've been through many wars. This is not the first war, and it probably won't be the last, sadly. So people are not like, it's not, I don't know, maybe you walk around in other countries and you look at somebody who might be disabled without a limb and you're just going, oh, what happened to you? In Israel, you're like, like my heart goes out to you. Like, thanks, you protected me, my family, our country. Thank you for serving.
They sacrificed their limb to protect you. So it's,
there's a very personal feeling on the other side. Like it's not that somebody looks at them and is like, oh, they're not marriageable. We don't have that. I don't think there's a stigma here in the same way that there's a stigma in many other places. I mean, I'm sure for certain individuals there are, but culturally and as a society, it's not something, I haven't seen it hit in the same way.
What about financially? How does it work financially? Like somebody comes to you, there's a fee or there's a payment. I know in regular shadchanim, like after they get married, there's a gift that they give to the shadchan, but I'm assuming for you, you have something a little more structured.
Yeah. So traditional matchmaking, you're supposed to pay upon engagement. If I, make a match at the engagement, each side is supposed to give the matchmaker a fee. In the modern matchmaking world, I'll call it, there's a lot of different models, but it's usually like pay for service, meaning if you're going to search and coach and support, you pay us for that time. And whether you make the match, you don't make the match, you are constantly, getting dates and finding people and setting them up. I created a hybrid model because I like the traditional world. But in order to do this as a real job, it has to function as a business. So we have that whatever the fee is, 75% you pay upfront. You pay us to hire us to take on the job, to work with you for 6 months, 9 months, a year. And then If we get you engaged, you pay the other 25%. If you don't, that's not, like we did the work that we were supposed to do, but we didn't complete it. So, but we always, even if somebody's not an active client, like if you worked with us and then you're a priority member, meaning we know you. And if there's somebody in our network in 2 months or 6 months, we're going to make a match suggestion, even though you're not our primary client and active right now, we would still make a match. And we also have a whole team of over 500 volunteer matchmakers that support online matchmaking, which we have available. And coaching services and DIY courses where people can learn about dating and relationships. So we have a lot of different levels. And we also have, like you guys, we have a free podcast, Matchmaker, and it helps people to just learn about relationship wisdom, and articles online and all over. Like we try to go from free to, VIP.
So would you reject somebody? Let's say that somebody's come to you, they're whatever age, and they've dated like everybody, and they went to, maybe they got engaged a couple times, and there's some people that are just never, it's a very small chance they're ever going to get married. Like, and you might know them, and like, I'm assuming you do a first time interview, and you might come up with that. Well, you say, well, you know what? We're not for you. We're not, like, we'll come up with clients, and we'll say, we have our first session, and we'll say, you know what? We're not a good fit for you. We're not the right people. We're not the right advisors for you. So we'll do that. We've done that many times. So is that something that you'll do too? Or are you just, if you want to use our services for matchmaking, we're going to take you?
No, we're similar to you because we're matchmakers. You have to realize the first match that we're making is between our client and ourselves. So if we're the right match, we will absolutely take somebody on. If we don't think we're the right fit, we actually will usually recommend one of our matchmaking colleagues and say, you know what, we don't think we're a right fit for these reasons. And here's somebody that we could refer you to that might A, have a stronger network in your area, or B, might be more of a personality, business match, could be financial related. They have services that are going to be more of a fit for you. So we're very similar to you. Like the first match has to be between us.
Yeah, you really have to get close.
Yeah.
My question is, it might be a little harder question, but like there's a lot of people with mental illness and they hide it. You're referring people, you're making a serious connection to two separate clients of yours. What happens if the date goes badly, like very badly?
Right. So there's always a possibility that will happen. The same thing can go for finances. Somebody can put down that they're very wealthy, they lie to you, and they can be, thousands of dollars in debt. We live in a world, like we don't live in the world of angels. We live in the world of people. So I would expect that to happen, but I would expect it to happen at a much lower rate with us or with a matchmaker in general, because first of all, we get to know many different people and we have a whole network of matchmakers. So if you've been in and around the network, like we know if there's somebody that has some challenges, we might give an update, like just, so here's how you can support this person in this way. And they may or may not be a fit to work with you. We would give somebody a heads up. Matchmaking is a thing, like you have to be real and in the right moment say the right thing to guard somebody.
And what would you tell somebody who is going out and went out with somebody and it is a bad date, but they're scared to break up with them, they're scared to tell you, like what advice would you give that person?
Look, if it's just a bad date, and bad dates can happen,
of course.
We talk about how to say no gracefully, kind of the compliment sandwich where you tell them what you value and or appreciate about them. There shouldn't be like 100% of things that are wrong. You should at least be able to look at them with a good eye and see a few key things at work. And then you would say, I don't think this match will work because of this reason. And you can give them a reason, although a reason doesn't usually help because people think that that's the only reason that you're breaking up. And really it's like multifaceted. And then you could say, and, if I meet anybody that's appropriate, I'm happy to pass on a recommendation, or no, just, thanks for making the time to go out. And I don't think it's a match. It's not, rejection never feels good.
Are you also prepping them on, like, especially I'm thinking more of the men. Like I had a very good friend of mine and he was dating, he was like in his 30s, whatever. And he would say within 3 minutes, he knew if this was the right woman or not. And then he would be taking them out for dinner and he just, you have to get through the rest of the meal. So, but some people, he was a little bit more gracious. Like he was aware that he shouldn't be, he should be nice to them still, even though he decided already. But some people, I've heard other stories, like like, that they really like, they know, right. They meet you right away and then they're like checked out and, and they're trying, and you can see right away that they're not even giving you a chance,
Yeah. So there's different type of daters. I actually have a little chart here. Hang on, let me pull it up. But what you're describing is what I call the I dater. They're the ones that just know inside and out who they want to be with. They look at you, like you said, in 3 seconds, they make an assessment and they're like, they just know what's going on. So I'm going to show you this. That's the I dater. And I think 15% of people in the world are I daters. There's also you daters. And the reason I say I is because I am the one that's going to make the decision about whether this relationship is going to work or not. You daters, they're always like, you never know. Like they go out, this person's okay, that person's okay, all different types of personality types they date, all different types of looks. Like they're very flexible and they're like, you never know who's going to make the decision about that relationship. You, whoever you are, the person dating them,
It's
because
Bumble.
they're very flexible.
It's Tinder versus Bumble.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yes. And then 70% of the people are what I call we daters. They're like, you go out. Did you have a nice date? They're like, I don't know. Do you want to see them again? I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. And you're like, what do you mean you don't know? You're the one on the date. How do you not know? You're the only one that can know. They're like, I don't know. What do you think? And I'm like, what do I think? I think I wasn't there. What do you think? So the we daters are mostly the people that don't know. They're unsure. They're the people that take a long time to make a decision. And they're a we dater because they're a communal decision maker. Who makes the decision? We do. Me, my mother, my friend, my dating coach, my therapist. Between all of them, if they can all agree that this is a good human for them, then they'll say yes.
It's a popular dater. It's funny. It's exactly what we talk about in finances. The question we get a lot from these we daters, the I don't knows, is what are people mostly doing for this financial strategy? And
That's it. I just want to do what they're doing. What does that have to do with you?
Or they'll come back and they'll say, you know what my doorman said about that? They said this was a very good stock. You put me into that one? I met my electrician. Give me a great recommendation.
Correct. So now those are the we financials. The I's come to you and they're like, I want this, this, and this. I'm not interested in anything else. Don't bother telling me that's what I want and that's all I want. And you're like, okay, right?
Yeah, that friend was like an I dater for sure. So how do you deal with those people that you just deal with it, I guess, the way
right. The best thing to help them is
patience.
Time. No, well, yeah, you have to have patience, but time helps them. I'm not going to change them, but over the course of time, if they can't get what they want, they may be open to refining what they're looking for, and they may be open to suggestions. But the I people, if they come to me and they ask advice, they're not asking advice. They just want to know what I think. They're going to suck my brain of information, process it, and they're going to go, interesting that you think that. And either I agree and I can be in alignment with it, or that's nice. And they just throw it out. The we people are practically making that decision with you. They're like, oh, if you think that, then I think that, then that's what I should do.
Which ones do you prefer?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say, 70% of the people are these we daters, and that's a majority of my clients, which is helping them to make a decision. I think that they need the most help and I can add the most value for them. I think that usually I people will only have 1, 2, no more than 4 sessions with me. They just don't need it. They just need zooming in on a specific piece of wisdom that they're really interested in, sucking it out, and then going and doing their thing. And they're very good. Then they take care of themselves.
So you like the we ones the most? Do you like the ones that you like to work with the most?
Yeah. And the you daters are they're like, well, I like this. I like that. I'm like, I know, just keep dating. You don't need me. You're just talking to me because it's a popular thing to talk to somebody, but you don't actually need to talk to me. You're fine. Keep dating. So I guess the we daters.
What about the people who are not the most attractive, and they also that's something in my community. It's you don't offer a lot. You're not I have a cousin of mine. I want this. I want that. I want this. I want that. It's you don't have a job. You're not great looking. You're not very funny, and you're pretty short. I don't understand this disconnect. How do you what? How do you go what are you talking about? What? You're scared to get a shot from the doctor. You can't go you're 40. You can't go to the doctor by yourself. How are we having this conversation? How do you just wake these people up? Or is it just impossible?
So we talk about attracting like. And when they tell me what they're looking for, I said, okay, so now I want you to put yourself in that person's position. Okay. We know the vision of what you want. Now you're her. what is she looking for? And then they identify, and I go, is that you? And sometimes they go, well, maybe not. And I'm like, oh.
Light bulb.
Like, what do we need to do to make you more like that vision of what she's looking for? You know, like those girls never like me. I wonder why. Why do you think that is? Well, I don't have a job and I don't have hair and I don't have enough money. What kind of girls are more attracted to you, or who might be looking for you? And then they tell me, you know, a prototype that they're like, but I don't want them. And I'm like, oh, what should we do about that?
There's this, my wife's cousin, distant cousin, but could basically be married because they all married first cousins. That's one thing, just in general, in the Persian community and my wife's community, the Mashadi community, my wife has 6 first cousins that are married to first cousins. So when
that's allowed in Jewish law. That's totally allowed.
It's allowed. Very weird. And they like it. They go, hi. Oh, like first time I met him, I was like, oh, what's your name? Oh, I'm Mansoor. My name is Mansoor. This is my wife and first cousin, Mujda. Like that's how they start the conversation.
As a, wow.
And they're like excited. So there was like a big family picture, and she was like 4 and he was like 17 at the time, because that's of course the age gap. I was like, is that where you really fell in love?
No, but it's very convenient because a lot of times they don't have to change their last names. They don't have to change their ID. They have the same last name. It's so convenient.
Like the Cohens, like the Syrian Cohens. Yeah, well, I'll just take another Cohen. We're good to go. I think that's why the Jews did it. I think that's why Kohanim mostly married Kohanim, just so they wouldn't have to change the last name.
So good.
think about it, Aleeza. But no, so this guy, he's very old. He's probably like 55. He drives like these sports cars, like $200,000-$300,000 sports cars, but actually has no money and lives with his mom still. So he's very, very angry, but everybody only wants him for money, but he doesn't like to pay for dates. So it's like, and then he asked me, like, can you set me up with my sister? I was like, I don't think that's a great match. I don't think it's the perfect alignment so that she moves into your bunk bed in your mommy's house. Like, I think it's a little weird.
No, but you know, there's something else. I was actually talking to a friend of mine a couple of days ago. He has a friend in the 50s, moved back to Israel, and he's like, also doesn't have any money, and the same exact thing. Like, he's not married. I don't think he's ever been. I think he said never been married, but he has no problem being intimate with women, like for a one-time night. I don't know, it's a little controversial to talk about, but he doesn't have any problem with that at all.
No, but he has a problem sticking with the same person.
Correct. Correct. Or they don't want to stay with him, you know, because of what you're saying. He doesn't have a lot to offer, but you know, for intimacy, he doesn't have any issue.
You should have like a picture in the back with him. And I think that would actually be a good, like, and you just can hand it to people. It's like a little deck. You just like a little card, and you just go here. That makes a lot of sense for the people who are listening. Check the video, because that might wake some people up. You've been amazing in your story, and you give so much of yourself, in especially right today, and I really appreciate that. But also in the show. Where did this resilience and this toughness that you've come through, because you're dealing in like the hardest space. It's like getting people married and then getting people not married are like the 2 hardest spaces that you could be in. You're in the number 1 part. Where did you get what moment in your life allowed you to be so tough and resilient? Like, what was that defining moment for you that allowed you to be in this?
It's really a good question. So I grew up with parents that were married and stayed married. My mom passed away 8 years ago, but my parents had a loving, healthy relationship. I saw normal ups and downs of like a real relationship. And when I looked around the world, I didn't see that so much. And I remember once visiting a friend when I was in college and visiting her family in New York. And I for the first time, I really saw what like a dysfunctional family was like. And I thought, oh my gosh, like people, like that's not just in the movies, like people actually live like this. And she was like, oh yeah, like this is normal. And I was like, no, no, this is nothing like normal, right? Like if I thought anything that I grew up with was, not straight, I mean, like we're talking nothing compared to what I saw there. And I said, no, this is not normal. And I just came home and I said to my mom, and I was like, I'm so sorry if I ever said like, that our family was dysfunctional or that. I was like, we are so not. We are so wonderful, so normal, just like it.
My kids never came back and told me that.
I don't know what to tell you about that one.
Yeah, well, what can I say? We're still together. I'm still married to my first wife, but none of my kids ever came back to tell me that. Yeah, hint, hint.
I wouldn't lie in the house.
But I think it was that moment where I saw the power and the value of being raised in a wonderful family with a loving family. This friend in New York, like they were divorced and the mother was screaming and yelling, and there wasn't peace in the home. And I saw that when you live with peace in the home, even I'm talking normal ups and downs, but like when you in general have a loving, healthy family, it really prepares you to have a healthy, stable life. And it helps you to be a highly functional human in the world and do great things, accomplish your mission. And it's all about the roots and the foundation. And I think that was the moment that I didn't consciously know to do anything about it. Like I didn't get a degree in anything that was like not psychology and nothing that would specifically prepare me for this. I just didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. But I think that was the moment where I knew that this was something special. And I also I love the brain and the heart and figuring out the distance between them, which seems to be like opposite ends of the earth, and to help people walk through that process and get to a place of understanding. Like I personally love being understood. When somebody understands me, I'm like, it's like a massage to my brain. It's like, oh, yes, you get me. So I really appreciate doing that for other people, that I really understand them. And then from that place, I can help them to shift and make healthy, good decisions for their life.
Yeah, I mean, you're changing the way people live their entire life. And we feel honored also to be in that realm. Somebody asked me one time and he said, isn't an hour of your time worth it to change the trajectory of somebody's life for the rest of their life? And you can just do that. There's like little stuff that you can just do that can change somebody for the better. And that's really what you're doing. That's what you did with your show. It was so obvious. And that's why I think it hit such a global impact. It was so obvious number one, what I loved about it, it was such a Kiddush Hashem versus like other Jewish celebrities, if you want to call them celebrities, that showed like what is wrong about the Jews and what is wrong about the Hasidic community. You showed the complete opposite, like something beautiful about the community. Like, this is our community. Like, we love each other. We just want to be together and we want to be happy. And it was such a beautiful thing that you showed, which is in what typically clicks and allows people to watch is hate and darkness, but you brought light and love onto the world, and we really needed that. So I think it's amazing what you've done, and you've definitely changed a lot of people's lives, and I think you found what you want to be when you grow up, and I think you are.
I did. I finally found it.
I certainly agree with what you said. It was amazing what you did, but didn't you find like these people are not your normal type of clients? Like, that's not your typical type. Like some of them, I was listening to some of the people you were talking to. It was like crazy. Like some of it was entertaining.
Yeah, and definitely entertaining. And of course, they pick people with really big personalities. But one of my main character traits is also acceptance. So what was amazing about the show, to your point, Yair, that I not just had all these different characters and not just like we showed the beauty of Judaism, we literally showed all different segments of Judaism. I was even working with people that for only the first time in their life, they started dating somebody Jewish, and all the other times they didn't. And all the way to somebody that was very religious. And, of course, they would only date Jewish and only in a very narrow box of what that looks like. And everybody was accepted, Sephardi and Ashkenazi and Israeli and American and black and white and like all over. It just didn't matter who you were. You were just another Jewish person who was here to be matched, and you were respected for who you were. Like, I wasn't twisting anybody's arms to become something that they're not. I was just empowering them to be who they are and to find who they want.
It's amazing. Aleeza, where can people find you? How can people get in touch with you? And how can our listeners sign up for your matchmaking? Because if I was single, I'd give you a call.
Thank you.
Talk to your brother.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. On social, you can find me at Aleeza Ben Shalom, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, wherever you are, Facebook. You can find me there. And at my website, it is marriagemindedmentor.com. Or if you can't remember all that, just throw my name, AleezaBenShalom.com. It'll come up. You'll find me. I'd love to help with
Great.
pleasure.
Aleeza, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate what you're doing. Really appreciate everybody for paying attention to this one. I hope you took a lot of value out of there. And for the people who are unaware, wake up. But for the people who are aware, there's so much hope and there's so much more good. And if you are going through this struggle, there are people that want to reach out and really want to help you. So talk to Aleeza. She's second to none. So thank you, Aleeza, for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you on the next.